Hey, well, tonight I'm angry about something called the community caretaking exception. And if you haven't heard this phrase before, you should learn it, because this phrase relates to our Fourth Amendment protections. And the Fourth Amendment specifically claims that we are to be free from search. Our homes, our papers, our effects, our property should be free from search unless there is a warrant. And the government, of course, is continually trying to chip away at our rights. Today, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments in a case called Caniglia versus Strom, and this case has the potential to gut our Fourth Amendment protections. I'll give you a very quick story as to what this case involves. A gentleman called Edward Caniglia was fighting with his wife. In frustration, he went and got one of their handguns, which was unloaded, I will point out, slammed it down on the table and suggested that she shoot him instead of continuing to argue with him. She left and, worried about him, tried to call him, couldn't reach him, worried that he'd committed suicide. She then contacted the police. The police showed up at Mr. Caniglia's home. He was not happy to have them involved. The police insisted that he go to a nearby hospital for psychological evaluation and promised him that they would not remove his guns or take any other actions with him while he was gone. As soon as he left, they broke their promise and indeed lied to Mrs. Caniglia, telling her that Mr. Caniglia had agreed that the guns could be confiscated. So the police entered the home, took the guns. Mr. Caniglia was quickly released from hospital and attempted to get his guns back from police. They refused. He had to sue them to get them back. And we come to the question, which is, did the police have the right to enter the home? There was no warrant. There was no crime. Do the police have that ability? And what's scary is that multiple courts seem to have ruled that they do. There is an exception, shocking. There's an exception called the community caretaking exception. And this was originally and specifically designed just for motor vehicles. If the police found an abandoned car on the side of the road, they would be allowed to look inside it prior to towing it. And the exception was made specifically for vehicles. Now the administration is trying to expand it. As a matter of fact, the Biden administration filed an amicus brief in support of the government's position, and what was most annoying was this quote: "The ultimate touchstone of the Fourth Amendment is reasonableness." This is from the Justice Department's argument. I could not disagree more. The touchstone of the Fourth Amendment is not reasonableness. The touchstone is our inviolate defense against the encroachment of authority. You know, these rights that have been enshrined in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, we, our ancestors, have fought for hundreds of years to gain these rights, including the English nobles fighting the king to get the Magna Carta, including the founders of America fighting the British to get our Constitution enacted. These rights are rights that used to seem inalienable, not granted by government, but granted by God, if you will. And here we are with the authorities chipping away at them. This seems to be one of the most egregious examples so far, where the police apparently are arguing two opposite things simultaneously. First, the police have argued and won that they do not have the obligation to protect us. You can look back at previous posts on this channel and you can see we've discussed this at some length, but there is legal precedent showing that the police have no obligation to protect us at all. Their only obligation apparently is to attempt to solve crimes. So if that is true, how can they simultaneously argue the exact opposite, that even though they have no obligation to protect us, they still have the right to act as if they are protecting us, which is what this community caretaking exception seems to indicate. We need to stop these encroachments by government on our rights. If we don't, we will have no rights left at all. Soon the government will be sending us all money, and nobody will have anything bad to say against the government. And all the sacrifices that previous generations made, our ancestors who died to gain these rights for us, will all have died in vain. We won't have the Fourth Amendment. We won't have any rights at all. We'll only have the rights that government allows us. And my biggest concern is, these days, I have no confidence that the Supreme Court will be there to protect us, the people, who ultimately are their constituency. Please, let's try to stop this inexorable loss of our liberties. Please, let's try to wake up.